everyone, and welcome to American Lithium's live summit today, hosted by Six. Today, I'm joined by Simon Clark, American Lithium's CEO and Director, Dr. Lawrence Stefan, the company's COO, President and Director, as well as Ted O'Connor, the company's Technical Advisor and Director. The team is going to walk us through their company presentation, after which we'll move on to a live Q&A session, where we'll be accepting and answering some questions. You can submit your questions using the Q&A panel found on the right-hand side of your screen at any time today. And as always, this summit is being recorded. It'll be available to watch afterwards on Six.com as an on-demand video. So without further ado, Simon, I'm going to hand things over to you to kick things off.
Thanks very much, Cam, and thanks everyone for joining. Hope everyone's staying safe and well. We've all had a little bit of a run-in with Omicron here, both in Peru and Vancouver, but glad to say we're all over it now. So that's good. So just giving you this today, the focus really is more on the actual projects and where we are, where we're at in terms of the projects and the drilling and the upcoming developments. But before I move on, I always like to start this view that we have here in Nevada. I think is always a really good view because where your projects are situated in the U.S. is very important. We always look at Nevada as one of the best, if not the best, mining jurisdiction on the planet. The one side, though, that does take time and can cause issues is obviously the permitting side. And I'd just like to point out, for us, the fact that we have no endangered species, or both on the animal and plant side, or major cultural issues of any description is a major advantage for us. We're at 6,500 feet in the high desert of Nevada. You can see where it is. It's what was a freshwater basin, back thousands of years ago, but critically as well, we are only 15 minutes outside of the town of Tonopah, so also have good infrastructure and good support from the local mining community. So that's just an insight on Nevada. Obviously, I think the demonstration of a lot of this is the fact that we've just come through a very successful process with the BLM. This is federal land, so we do things through the Bureau of Land Management. It took us a year to get our next project, which is a bunch of exploration and development drilling. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It took us a year to get it permitted, but it was a successful process, which included an environmental assessment process, which went as smoothly as these things can, and actually got significant support from the local community and the local stakeholders. So we're very pleased with how that unfolded. So with that, I'll just click through the cautionary statements. And this is just a highlight. You can see where we are. We're one of the largest lithium developers in the Americas. You can look at our combined lithium resource, and as well as Nevada, which we've just talked about. Through our acquisition of Plateau last year, we picked up what we see as two amazing assets: Falchani, high grade, high purity, at surface, very robust PEA. Lawrence and the team did a great job getting that to battery grade, and it's a great add into the mix. And through that process as well, we picked up Macusani, which is the 5th largest undeveloped uranium project on the planet. We weren't looking for uranium. At this part, it adds great optionality to the company, and we will look at how we can take Macusani and obviously generate significant value for the company, with the perspective that going forward we are first and foremost a lithium developer. So we also had a strong year last year in terms of adding to the treasury. Treasury is actually at 56 million, so we're in a very strong financial position, and with lots of capital to fund the programs and the projects that we're about to talk about. And the acquisition of Plateau not only brought us very strong physical assets, but as you can see from the team presenting here today with Ted and Lawrence, it really rounded out our management. And we believe we really have a strong team in place now to move forward and continue to develop these assets and bring value to our shareholders. With that, just a little bit of a snapshot of the last year. Obviously, a very big year for us. You can see some of the peaks and troughs as we've seen in this sector. It's a sector where there's been a number of cycles. You can see early in the year we had a nice run up in the sector, and including our stock, and some good milestones reached, and then things consolidated back down, and we had a very strong run up at the end of last year, again on the back of good news flow from us, but also the sector in general. And then despite the price of the commodity being at an all-time high, the sector has consolidated in recent weeks as we've seen a bit of a risk-off trade in the markets with concerns around interest rates. Given the strength of the commodity, we would very much expect the strong market to return and revert. As I say, there's now a big disconnect again between valuations of the underlying stocks and the price of the commodity. So a very strong year that's just passed, and we've got a lot on our plates, a lot to do this year, but a lot of really exciting milestones coming up as well. So just a quick snapshot of the market cap. This is a little bit out of date, it's now, I think our stock price today is more like 340, but you can see a very strong balance sheet, lots of in the money warrants and options as well. And we're now in that transition where the company is moving from what was a very retail dominated story now to one where we're getting a lot of institutional interest and support and buy-in. And our last two financings, the two that we did last year, were all institutional led. That said, we still value our very strong retail base, 40,000 plus shareholders, with a lot of those very loyal, supportive shareholders also based in the US. And we've also seen the analyst coverage pick up on us with Roth and Echelon coming on last year to join VSA, and we are anticipating another couple of banks picking up coverage here over the next couple of months. So moving on, ESG, obviously a big buzzword in the industry, but something that is more and more critical as we move forward. We obviously focus strongly on the environment. If you look at our PEA for Falchani, for example, very much focused on using hydropower, lots of a good water supply locally, and critically, you don't get anything done in Peru if you don't first and foremost have the communities on site. And again, I commend Lawrence and Ted for the job that they've done there. We have very, very strong community support, so much so that in recent months the community has sent the communities around Falchani and Macusani have sent representatives down to meet with President Castillo and urge him to take all the steps necessary to help us drive these projects forward. So ESG is not just a buzzword for us, it's how we actually think about all of our projects and all of our operations day to day. And as part of that, we've just actually contracted United Corporation, which is one of the leaders in this area, to help us actually report on ESG. I mean, it's all very well, companies talk a lot about it, but now investors are wanting to actually see a report on ESG and actually see how we stack up against other companies, and making sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing. So we've signed up Onion, and they will be a big piece of what we do going forward. So this is TLC, and at this point I'll hand over to Ted. This shows you the work that has been done to date, and then as we move forward, we'll show you what we will be doing going forward. Over to you, Ted.
For sure. So we have a very large property. We've expanded it a few times since the initial resource estimate. And just before the Christmas break, we started drilling the yellow lettered holes up in the north. And we have 10 holes planned for TLC North. And With assays still pending, we've intersected thick lithium-bearing claystone, similar in grades, we believe, based on our instant LIBS chemical analysis, looking quite similar to TLC resource. So we're excited. Unfortunately, in Nevada, there's a boom in exploration, so the labs are having delays of up to 3 months. So we're waiting with bated breath for our analytical results from the first 6 holes. We just started drilling again, extending those yellow holes to the south, and we'll be drilling on the east. And as Simon mentioned, we received our plan of operations permits from the BLM and the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection, and we'll be going on a much larger program that'll be in one of the next slides. And this is on a smaller area, focused more on the resource area, which is the purple lines you can see from the previous drilling.
Do you want me to move forward to that one, Ted?
Sure. So we have 110 new drill sites permitted in this plan of operations, sort of smaller area of our full project area. And we'll be drilling something on the order of 15,000 meters in this next phase of exploration and development work. And it's kind of twofold. We're going to expand the resource, certainly the measured and indicated resources, further than what we have. So those numbers will grow, but we're also exploring to the north and west of the resource area as it stands now, which, we're hopeful and confident that we'll be able to add even more resources. As well, we're permitted to excavate 5, we'll call them bulk sample small pits, to access even more material for more intensive metallurgical work that we have planned. As we move past the PEA, we expect to deliver in the end of the first quarter this year, and into our feasibility study. So we'll need a lot more material, and this plan of operations lets us do that.
And I think Ted, it's right to say that this drilling will provide us everything we need, not only to infill and high grade and expand the resource further, but it'll provide all the drilling that we would need to move through feasibility and beyond.
Exactly.
Perfect. And then if we move on to this, just a reminder, I mean, this is a slide that a number who followed us have probably seen before. Some of the key characteristics that really make TLC unique in terms of claystones are just how weakly bound to the clays the lithium is, and a big part of that is the freshwater environment that this was originally set down in. So low energy, deposited the lithium, and so relatively low energy to get it out. And as you can see, we've had a lot of success extracting lithium by hitting it with leach in less than 10 minutes. So that you still have to deal with the impurities, but it's a significant advantage when you look at that compared to our peer group. Other benefits we have, the lithium largely sits at or near surface, so very much suitable for conventional mining. And we're lucky that the low deleterious elements in terms of mercury, arsenic, and uranium, so we don't have to deal with that in our flow sheet. And critically, for Nevada, we're well above the water table, which is a key point. And Lawrence, I don't know whether you wanted to just talk for a couple of minutes about the success we've had on upgrading this ore as well, and where we are in terms of the metallurgical side of things. You tell me. There you are.
Sorry, my voice is not very good. I hope you'll understand me. Simon did a better job than me, seems like. I hope that my words will be able to spread around properly. So when we discovered Falchani, and I'll start with a short introduction, we didn't know what it was, and it was very complicated. We were just joking between Ted and the team at the time that actually people were asking, what is that? And we tell them what the deposit was not, which is a very type of negative philosophical approach to define things, especially science. So, but by doing that, we've been able to do all our homework properly. It was quite an expensive school fees that we had to pay, but we've been able to understand Falchani. And look, we've been very lucky. It was the world pre-COVID when things were much faster. In 2 years, we've been able to move the project from discovery, and I'm talking totally proper discovery, actually to the first economic assessment, which was very good, considering that it was something very unusual. But one thing that we understand very easy is that from the beginning is that we have a very clean lithium product. It's nothing that will interfere with our work. When we got involved with American Lithium, we are going to celebrate about 1 year very soon since we started talking to each other. It happened at the beginning of 2021. And hopefully the two companies, they did well. It's not my job to tell you, that's Simon's job, but look, from a stock that it was probably under 100 million, we ramp it quickly to 1 billion. Then we probably, some corrections, probably a very good and welcome needed correction. But we've been able to progress the project, not so much on the geological understanding, although even there, I think we know much better now than we knew 1 year ago, but much more on the processing side. But one thing that we realized very clear, we are definitely, it's, sorry for using a dirty word, but we have a different animal to tame. So we had to use a different type of skills. Luckily, Falchani was very good because it allowed us to understand how to tame it differently. And we tried all the recipes. But one of the things that it was very important to do it was to upgrade it. Because as opposed to Falchani, where we have thick intersection of sometimes 200 meters running well above 3,000 ppm lithium metal, Tonopah is not high grade. So not being high grade, one of the problems that we had to face, it was to high grade. And we started the recipe that actually inherited from previous research done by American Lithium. There were some concerns about that, and we said we have to expand. We have to try to do it differently. So we tried different tests. We are still running one. There is a major sample now just arrived in South Africa. I was informed a couple of minutes ago. We'll probably start the test of within a week or so. But we try to use any type of gravimetric processing, allowing us to, the idea is to double the grade. Whether we'll succeed to double it or just a 70, 80, 90%, I think it's much better. I can communicate. We probably shouldn't do that because it's not published yet, but I just had some results yesterday. We did a lot of pre-concentration on a previous sample, much better grade that we received, now as a result of later drilling, and we've been able to push the grade of up to 2,000 ppm. 2,000 ppm is still probably 30% less than Falchani, but is definitely much better than a 1,000 ppm resource. And we did that without throwing more than 20% of the lithium available in the ore. So I don't want to go into the recipes. It's still a lot of, I would like to call it, we'd like to patent definitely that type of pre-concentration. I'm not at liberty to talk. But in principle, we've been able, using a lot of simple gravity concentration methods, the combination between some of them, that we've been able to upgrade, I would say probably 80% of the lithium and to push it to close to 2,000 ppm. The previous samples, they were lower grade, but actually started with a much lower grade. And in the process, we realized that actually we have almost a similar leaching of the high grade pre-concentrate, although there are things that we are losing, probably slightly higher sulfuric acid content, but definitely we start with the grade that we do believe is probably one of the highest in terms of lithium clay deposits, Because at the end of the day, this is what Tonopah has. It's a clay deposit. People clay claystones, whatever. You can turn it around, but it's a low-grade lithium deposit, and definitely pre-concentrated it will allow the processing to do it faster, cheaper, and definitely much more efficient. We tried two different routes of extracting lithium from those rocks. And now we are doing it on the pre-concentrated, one of the higher grade. We tried hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, which was done in the past. And American Lithium succeeded to do it in 10 minutes. This is very unusual. What's very interesting about it, you can extract over 90% in less than 10 minutes. which is almost unheard of. Initially, we didn't believe it, but it's a reality, and this is one of the strengths of Tonopah. Although it appears much more complex in terms of mineralogy and in terms of extraction, at the end of the day, the kinetics of those reactions are as such that it will allow us a very fast extraction. So the question is that how are we going to clean the rest of the, although we do not have the literal solution, metals, as Simon emphasized, there is a lot of higher concentration of calcium, magnesium. And I would like to say that actually after a couple of good months of struggling with that one, we are able to clean magnesium, we are able to clean calcium. We still have a small hiccup on the aluminum and the iron. We'll go to publish those things probably within a month or so. But I think we are in a position to extract a relatively clean lithium concentrate. We haven't run the final test, the final lithium precipitation, the lithium carbonate, because whether we do acid leaching as hydrochloric or sulfuric, or we are doing roasting, and why we did roasting, because the roasting is going to solve the main problem of high inclusions of magnesium, calcium, iron, and aluminum into the solution. And it's probably a bit more expensive. We have to look at gas capabilities and capacities and transporting to site. That's another story that will be discussed in the PA. But we either have a very bulk acid leaching that works very quick, very fast, it's relatively cheap, but we have to work a bit more on the cleaning side to produce a very good lithium carbonate product, which we are very convinced that we are going to do it. Or we can do it the roasting side, which will give us a very, very good extraction, slightly lower than the acid leaching. But actually, we start with a pregnant solution, which is extremely clean. Actually, lithium, it's one of the highest concentration, and we start with a pH which is above 10. So the last step of precipitation will happen almost automatically. We haven't done that one yet because we are trying to do them together in tandem to understand the pro and contrast of each and every method. Hopefully, we'll have those final results in definitely less than the next 4 to 6 weeks, allowing us to finalize the PA. The good news, although it probably sounds complicated, what I'm saying is that we have more than one route. As Falchani, we have more than one route to extract. We can even go on a bulk route that will probably do it like everybody else with acids, different type of acids. Or we can do it with roasting using gas and having a very clean solution. The beauty about producing lithium using gas roasting followed by water leaching is that we can choose whether we decide to precipitate lithium carbonate, although because lithium is in the aqua solution, it will be much easier to produce lithium hydroxide. So it's very important if we go for the gas if we follow the gas roasting route, that will be able to produce both a lithium carbonate and the lithium hydroxide. We still do not know where mankind and what type of lithium, in what shapes and forms we'll use in 4 or 5 years from now, but we prepare the company to produce both of them. People talk about the future will be lithium sulfates. I do not want to comment on that, but if we go on the sulfuric acid leaching, we can produce a very clean lithium sulfate concentrate. That will be the easiest by far. So we position the company to make sure that we produce whatever the industry will need in the next years to come. Thank you, Simon.
And to highlight something, because there's so many options for processing, we're actually looking not just at economics, but also integrating the environmental side of things, looking at trade-offs between recoveries, economics, products that we want to produce, and the environmental impacts. It's kind of a Venn diagram, if you will, where the sweet spot is where all these things intersect.
Perfect. Listen, guys, that's a great overview. Hopefully, it gives the audience the real impression that bringing the two companies together and the lessons you guys learned from Falchani has just really helped us fast track the met side at TLC, and it's great that we've got these options. And to the audience, we will, as Lawrence say, we'll continue working on it, and we will probably have a couple of these routes in our PEA that comes out in the next few months here. But it's great to have the optionality not only on the processing side, but also in terms of whether we end up producing a carbonate or a hydroxide. Great job, guys. So now with that, if we turn to Peru, I think most people here have seen this slide before. This is the resource at Falchani. It's the PEA that was put together, extremely robust PEA, and you know, when we acquired Plateau, you know, we really looked at this and we said, there's a massive inferred number here in the resource, and the reason for that is that Falchani is a highly unique style of mineralization again, and so our belief when we acquired it is that the reserve auditors were very, very conservative, and we believe that through the drilling and work we're going to be doing in the coming months here, we can move a lot of that resource into measured and indicated, which will then, from our perspective, when we look at Falchani, we believe it's ready to go into feasibility. The one step we need to do before is to move a lot of this resource into measured and indicated, so they then become your reserves through the feasibility process. And so that's a big focus. But the fact that Lawrence and the team did such a great job on the met side, I mean, this is the global cost curve of brine and hard rock, and you can see here where Falchani is in terms of that cost curve. It's one of the lowest cost operations to produce lithium that there is globally. You can see, I mean, everyone talks about green bushes in Australia. Well, Falchani is close to that, and we showed two cases. I mean, when we acquired Falchani or Plateau, obviously the dispute over some of the concessions continues to be advanced. I mean, we've had a very strong judgment in our favor. When we acquired the company, our view was even if those 32 concessions don't come back, this is a very strong project. We still control the plateau. We still control 80% of all the concessions, and Falchani is still extremely attractive, even if you were to never get Okakasa fallback, which is the one concession impacted. So here you can see Falchani without Okakasa 4. Costs are slightly higher because you don't have quite the same economies of scale. And then you can see it, assuming that we do get Okakasa 4 back, which is very much what we believe, having seen the judgment and the judicial process moving in our favor in Peru. So either way, again, I take my hat off to Lawrence and Ted and the team for doing a fabulous job. This is the flow sheet they put together. The key thing that I always take away from this is when flow sheets always look complicated. This is actually relatively straightforward, but the purity is key. I mean, when they ran this flow sheet, I think, Lawrence, second pass, you got it to battery grade. So this is a really high purity, high quality asset that we think, because of some of the legal issues that were going on, etc., is a hidden gem that allowed us to get it. And we will be driving ahead on this project. And before we talk a little bit about the upcoming work that's going to be done in Peru, and I'll let Ted and Lawrence talk a bit about that. This is just the overview on the uranium side. This is Macusani, highly robust PEA. The one takeaway that I would like to point out to everyone on the phone, and what, I mean, again, we didn't buy Plateau for the uranium, but, and you look at the grades and you think, well, they're not the greatest grades in the uranium front, but to say that, you're missing again the fact that this sits at surface, and the met side of things is so critical. The amount of acid you have to use here is very minimal. So that's what drives such a robust PEA and a low cost. The only place that I know of that's cheaper to produce uranium is Kazakhstan on a global basis. So we think this is a great asset. There's work we think we can do in the short term to really position this asset better, and then we will look at what is the best way to maximize value from this project for shareholders. Probably put it in its own vehicle, make sure that American Lithium and all its shareholders have continue to have a big stake in it, and then maybe set it up as an independent company. But again, there's some good work we can do in the interim. And with that, I'll hand first off to you, Ted, and then obviously Lawrence, just to talk about the drilling and the work we're doing, and the work we're doing to update the PEAs before then moving Falchani into feasibility.
For sure. So in Peru, starting with Falchani, which is the map depicted in the slide, we are expecting our permits imminently, starting with the new discovery area we call Calcaya to the west of Falchani resource. And we're following up some excellent mapping and sampling work where we had results well over 3,000 ppm lithium metal in surface outcrop samples. So we're excited to drill our first of hopefully many holes on this new discovery area, which is about 5 to 6 kilometers west of Falchani. The next set of permits that we should get within the next couple of weeks is on Falchani itself, where we are looking to expand to the west and north of the existing blue outline resource area, where we once again have extensive outcrop with Falchani plus 3,000 ppm lithium grades at surface. So we'll focus on expanding the resource at Falchani, but also doing infill, because the conservative resource estimate, we have indicated and inferred we don't have any measured here at Falchani yet, so we want to tighten up the drill spacing to allow that to happen. As far as what we're doing at Macusani, which is, if you can look at the inset map on the upper right of the picture, that would be in the northeast corner of the property. We have surface indications that we've seen uranium mineralization outside of our existing deposits. So Macusani, yes, it has a total resource of 124 million pounds, but it's in several deposits. And we've noticed, since we put all the consolidated players over the years on the uranium side together, geology doesn't stop at property boundaries. So we know that these deposits are either linked or extend outside of their existing footprint right now. So we're going to focus on doing that drilling. So we have about 70 drill holes planned at Macusani, 12,000 meters. At Falchani, there's 40 holes planned on the order of 8,000 meters. And in Nevada, as we discussed previously about the initial exploration drilling that we just started, and the infill expansion drilling under the plan of operations, we're also both in Peru and soon to start up elsewhere, looking at the processing side of TLC. So a lot of work. We'll be quite busy, and hopefully the laboratory analysis is in 3 months, and we can get news on not just how thick our rocks are, but what their grades are soon.
Great, Ted. Lawrence, I'm just conscious of time, and we want to obviously give lots of time for questions. Just quickly, 2 minutes on Falchani and cesium and potash and the potential for those byproducts. Obviously, they weren't included in the last PEA, but the plan is to include those in an updated PEA here during the first half.
Absolutely. Allow me 20 seconds for something else. Look, just to finalize what Ted eloquently put together. Look, when geologists receive budgets to do exploration, we can assume, many people assume that they do funny work at the expense of the shareholders. You need a target, not an objective. We just don't spend money on 4x4s, geologists and drilling and playing with toys at altitude. The objective is actually to have an extra resource, to enlarge them, or to bring something new to the party. So what we are happening at Falchani, we are doing both. We are trying to bring a new resource hopefully it will be there in the area of Quelcaya and to enlarge the existing one. While at Tonopah in Nevada, definitely the extension is to extend the existing, that very large lithium clay corridor. So I don't want to go into numbers, and I don't want to be held responsible, to be held because of that, just because I made some forward statements. At the moment, the company has roughly 12 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. I know it's a different of mixtures to countries, different categories. The 43-101 rules do not allow you to do things like that. But in principle, we can talk about the global resource. At the end of the day, lithium is there in any categories and is metal in the ground. So the 12 million tons between Peru and the existing resource in Nevada, it's quite a large. We are probably the junior with the largest resource available, maybe, if my knowledge is correct. Our intention is definitely at the end of this very intense drilling program, both in Peru and the United States, is to double those resources. Probably sounds quite extravagant and a lot, but if we are looking at a target of about 20. And a lot of people, they compare it to look what's happening, where the future of American lithium is. You know that LIACF, which is probably the big brother on the trend, Lithium Corporation, they have 18 million tons. I do believe strongly that actually based on our recipes and everything that we have on the ground, we can probably be that number. We can be that number, and that will probably allow us to have one of the largest lithium resources in rock, in hard rocks anywhere in the world. Coming back to the questions that Simon asked, it's part. Look, it will be very difficult to extract something else from the TLC, but lithium. We are working on that, but whether we succeed or not, time will say, and actually the geochemical ability of the team or of the rock itself. But we know at Falchani was definitely a much more generous rock, And in the process of lithium, extracting lithium, we are bringing into solution cesium, rubidium, and a lot of potassium. And our intention, the work that we are doing in Peru, and actually double-checked by ANSTO. ANSTO is Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organization, started as a uranium base, all the research that was done in Australia, and then it moved into rare earths and lately into lithium. They are involved in lithium research in most of the projects in the world. And we strongly believe that as we clean lithium further, it will be much easier to extract, to concentrate, and to be able to purify one of the other metals, namely, and in this order, rubidium, cesium, and SOP, fertilizers, potassium-based fertilizers. We are very close to have that deal. We haven't announced anything yet because we are still working on it. We have very good numbers. We are still working on that. The purity probably is where it should be. We are working on yield and other things. So it's very complicated, not necessarily the technical work, but the world under COVID is not the same. There are long chain supplies. You probably heard about that. Sometimes labs do not have substances. China is the main providers. Some of those things, they do arrive, others do not. So it's not simple. But we are trying our best, and we hopefully within a month or so will be able to have some good results communicated on cesium, rubidium, and SOP extraction from the Peruvian assets. Thank you, Simon.
Great, Lawrence. Okay, with that, I would just finish off looking at our pro formas. I mean, obviously, we had a good run-up last year. The top chart shows where we are on an M&I basis globally. Obviously, one of the largest, and as Lawrence said, with the large inferred numbers and a lot of the work we're doing, we think we've got the ability to move that up significantly. And yet, on a valuation perspective, you can see, I mean, despite the run-up that we had, we obviously still lag a lot of our peer groups on an EV to M&I basis. So we think there's lots of value. Our goal is to close the gap between Lithium Americas, which we see as a very good comp for us. They're certainly a couple of years ahead of where we are on the development cycle, but again, we think we can close that gap. You can see them here on a market cap basis compared to where we are, and so that's our target. And we always talk about that. It's always good to have ambitious goals, but with our resource mix and our diversity on a geological and geographical basis, we think we've got a really good chance of closing that gap. So that's enough on the presentation. I know there's lots of questions, so Cam, over to you to adjudicate on that.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Thank you for the presentation, everyone. We have had a lot of questions come in, so I ask that everyone in the audience make sure that if they would like to ask a question, that they do so using the Q&A tab found on the right-hand side of their screen. But to begin with, David Hart wants to know if there's a movement being made on uplisting the LIACF, to the NYSE or similar. Is there any timetable you're working with?
Yes, good question. I mean, we did announce to the market, I think a few months ago, that we had embarked on that process, and actually it's been a pretty good process so far. We had, they came back with some initial questions. The main thing they wanted to see is us to strengthen our balance sheet. So obviously have a strong cash position going forward, which we did in the fall, and we're in the process where we're anticipating, their final commentary over the next week or two here, which will then allow us to start to plan for specific dates, bringing market makers on. But we would believe that it's a process that we should be able to wrap up, all things being equal, and nothing coming out of left field. We reckon that we should be able to wrap it up over the next 6 to 8 weeks here, and get the NYSE American quote going.
Wonderful, thank you for that. David has a follow-up question. Are there a bullet list of actions that need to be accomplished before a retail production site can break ground?
Repeat that again, Cam?
Absolutely. David Hart is wondering if there's a bullet list of actions that need to be accomplished before a retail production site can break ground.
Can I answer to that one, Simon? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So yes, definitely. Look, in this world of ours as miners, you have prospectors. They are not listed usually because they are too tiny. You have explorers, you have developers, and then people who are in production. So I would like to believe that, considering the difference in development between the two projects, between the Peruvian assets and the American assets, we are an explorer but also a developer at the same time. So the first plan is definitely to have a PEA on the American soil, then to upgrade that one as fast as possible into PFS and feasibility study. If our metallurgical knowledge will be vast and fast and very abundant, we'll be able probably to move straight into feasibility. And if that's probably a bit more complicated to achieve in the States, although I will probably change my word in 6 months from now, it's much easier to do it in Peru because actually we did more research and it's a much easier and robust ore body to process. So we hope that after the new PEA, that will include mostly, not necessarily on the lithium extraction, but mostly including cesium and rubidium and potash, as you discussed earlier. That will be the next PEA on the Falchani side. Towards the end of 2022, assuming that the world is getting better and COVID will be part of the past, hopefully, then definitely for sure in 2023 we can have those projects, both of them in pre-feasibility or feasibility study. Once we have a feasibility study and we definitely have a bankable, we can move into production. And this is the $1 million question, how fast, and this is one of the way how Simon started his presentation. Nevada is the next, probably Peru and Nevada are one of the best, funny to compare a country with a state, but in principle, they are one of the easiest mining jurisdictions in the world. However, we have the time with the regulators, and this is a question mark as big as probably the planet that we live upon. We like that one to be as fast as possible. As our experience demonstrated, things didn't work so fast. One of the reasons being COVID, hopefully. I would like to believe that the world moving out of COVID will be faster, better, leaner, but that's okay, up to be seen. And probably somewhere in between, we'd like to have a pilot plant. We still do not know, and we are working and we're debating internally, shall we have a pilot plant in Peru, one in the States, or shall we just extract rock, many hundreds, thousands of tons, and to put them into a place where actually we can use a similar plant for both of them. But this is something that we'll probably have to decide sometime in 2022. So I would say, yes, we have to improve the PEA, then PFS or feasibility study, the bankable, raising the funds, and definitely being into production. We like those things to run very fast. I do believe strongly, and I would hate to eat my words lately in the year, but in principle, I think we are considering the robustness of both our bodies and the knowledge that we've been able to achieve on lithium extraction on both of them, is that we'll be able to move both of them into feasibility study quite fast. I hope I answered the question.
Oh, sorry, Ted, carry on.
I was just going to add that, as part of the process, we've started the environmental work necessary to go beyond just our plan of operations in Nevada to look forward to the next plan of operations, which will be a mining plan of operations. So things like bird surveys that we're starting, and flora and fauna, environmental baseline studies are already being initiated, both in Nevada and Peru. So we're hoping to do things concurrently, assuming we will get what we think will be positive outcomes on not only the PEAs but feasibility studies. And I just want to add that in Falchani's case for the PEA, we used $12,000 lithium carbonate price, and the current price and forecast price is nowhere near that. So our economic models will change on that basis alone.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, obviously the spot price for lithium carbonate is 4 times that today. Not what you would use long term, but certainly that pricing will be significantly revised upwards, which will make the PEA stronger. And the final piece I would say, Cam, and I know it's been a long answer, but I think is important, that the robustness of the PEA done at Falchani very much lends itself. The work done in getting that to battery grade and a very robust PEA really will help move into feasibility. And similarly, that's what we're looking to do at TLC. We could have put out a PEA on TLC at technical grade, probably a year ago. But our view was let's really do a very robust PEA. Let's get the met side buttoned down, and let's get this thing to battery grade. And then again, we can leverage that very quickly to move into feasibility.
Wonderful, gentlemen. Thank you for that very in-depth answer. While Mike McIntosh in the audience has asked about the NYSE listing progress, I believe you've answered that. So Reinhardt's question is, does American Lithium have any ambitions to get in touch with Tesla?
Well, I mean, we do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we are on the strategic radar of a number of groups. We have had meetings with Tesla over the last couple of years. I think what I would point out to the audience is Tesla looks at every lithium project on the planet, but we are close to the giga-factory in Nevada. We've had good dialogue with them. The other thing that you should note on Tesla is that they did acquire their own claystone assets. They, similar to us, have a belief that claystone are going to form a big part of the lithium supply chain. So they've put out work that they claim that they've done on claystones and ways that they think they can be separated, and we've looked at those and analyzed them, and I think we're comfortable with the way that we're moving on the met side. But any learnings we can get from them, we will, and we will continue to remain in dialogue with them. I mean, we've had meetings in the past with Albemarle. Albemarle is very interested in Falchani for the cesium. The Chinese, as you know, are all over South America. So Ganfeng and others have shown interest in Falchani. So yes, we are generating a lot of strategic interest. We're not going to necessarily tie up our forward production at too early a stage and kill the potential economics of the company. But we also believe that as we move forward here, strategic involvement, there will be lots of options. We've been approached by a number of investment banks who have a number of the large automakers on the planet as clients, and all of them are now looking at how do we source lithium going forward, because there is a realization that there's probably not going to be enough to go around. And so I think we're going to see that strategic interaction heat up and grow, and we'll continue to talk to all parties on that front.
Wonderful, thank you, Simon. A question from the audience is if this presentation is going to become available for shareholders to download for themselves.
I think, Cam, you normally make it available, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We can be sending this out to everyone who is registered and attended after the summit, and I'm sure you can also find this or a similar presentation on AmericanLithiumCorp.com.
Yeah, we'll put it on the website as well. I think that's what we've done with our previous ones.
Absolutely. Wes from the audience wants to know, what is the nature of the mineralization, shape, depth geometry, and is this a lithium clay?
Are we talking about TLC? I'll talk about both.
Yes, I think it should be TLC test.
Okay, I believe so. It came from earlier during today's presentation.
So in Nevada at TLC, these are freshwater sediments that are relatively young, Cretaceous age, and the lithium has been introduced through cold, fresh groundwaters from a source area, probably some of the felsic volcanic rocks, and from within the sediments themselves, and precipitated in the clays, not necessarily as new clay minerals, but adsorbed as well as making some lithium clay minerals. So yes, it is a claystone, very fine grained, but because it's a freshwater environment, we don't have any hydrothermal overprint like they would at McDermott Caldera / Thacker Pass. It's a low temperature system, and that's why the leaching is so quick. At Falchani, it's a volcanic sediment. So it's a volcanic ash deposit that is where the lithium it should have never been erupted at surface. It's a unique set of rocks, about 5 to 7 million years old. Explosive volcanism created this volcanic ash, basically froze, crystallized in the air, and deposited, we believe, in a volcanic lake, a caldera lake, where we have, up to 200 meters thick of this volcanic ash deposit called a tuff, and the lithium is within the volcanic glassy material. So once again, there's no hydrothermal input. It's essentially a pegmatite composition that's a volcanic rock, not an intrusive rock. So it's not as hard to get the lithium out of those rocks. In fact, it's quite easy. And because there's the style of volcanic rock that it's hosted in has really low iron, low magnesium. It's basically just silica, aluminum, lithium, potassium, and a bit of sodium. So, and as Lawrence mentioned, rubidium and cesium as well. But unique rocks. We had a hard time trying to tell people what we were dealing with in the hard rock sense, and similarly why TLC is different from a claystone, from other claystone deposits in Nevada. So hopefully that answers the question.
So just the last one, yes, the shape and form. They are stratiform ore bodies. Probably, I would say, probably for TLC it's more tabular, in the sense that actually it's straight up going with a thickness variable, not quite, but once the package has a certain thickness, tends to maintain it, because as Ted explained, it's a freshwater lacustrine probably type of sediment, because it's not lake, a combination with a river, some deltaic, but anyway, lithium came late. The same happened in Falchani. It's probably, I would say, it's not tabular in the sense that actually try to imagine a lake, which is a sink, and you fill it up. So actually it's very thick in the middle and then thins out towards the edges, but it's very big, very wide and very easy to mine. But both of them, they have something in common. Lithium, it's very easy to extract. TLC has this amazing opportunity as opposed to most of the other lithium deposits that are investigated along the Nevada trend, that lithium came late into the picture. Whether lithium it's which we still debate, in a type of lithium clay mineral, it seems to be rather absorbed into the lattice on those clays. So as a result, again, it's very easy to extract. So we've been very blessed with a very easy metallurgical processing and extraction of the lithium from both deposits.
Well, thank you for the answer. Listen, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are running up on our time constraint. The hour is almost over, and we do have a number of questions still in line. I would like to remind attendees that we will be passing on all of your questions that have gone unanswered to our team here so that the follow-up can occur. However, I would like to pass things over to Simon at this point for any wrap-up comments before we end today.
Thanks, Cam. Very much appreciate everyone attending. We will try and make this as regular an occurrence as possible, these panels, to give people an opportunity to pose questions. As you've seen, I think we start the year in a very strong position, strong balance sheet, very good things happening at all the projects. And we should be delivering a very full pipeline of milestones and news as we move forward here. So thanks again to everyone for their ongoing support and help. Please reach out to us at any time if you have questions. We have a team now here built out on the IR and the media side who can help with questions, and there's always someone available. So again, very much appreciate things. Thanks, Cam, for hosting and doing a great job as usual, and thanks Lawrence and Ted for all your help as ever. I think that was very helpful.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, the audience.
Thank you, gentlemen. And with that, we'll be wrapping up today. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Cheers.